Hello everyone, welcome back. Here we go again. Picking right back up where we left off last time in Ophiel's Art and Practice of the Occult. How are you all today? The day is, what is today? It's Monday. That's what it is. Today's Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. I hope you're having a great Monday. A great start to the week. I hope it's the start you need. I hope it's really launching you into your dreams. Those dreams you've been working so hard to cultivate. Those dreams of a world without suffering, without hatred, without division. Those dreams of a world with rivers of happiness and mountains of sugary sweets and never-ending smiles and laughter. Keep dreaming, friends. Keep on dreaming. In the meantime, we are going to keep on seeing what Ophiel's got to teach us. Much love to you all. Welcome. Here we are again with Jay Valdale and Ophiel and some art and practice of the occult. Now this next one wasn't too long, and it was just those general considerations. So we'll see what Ophiel would like us to consider. Make sure you're considering being hydrated. All right, chapter 9, general considerations. We will now leave the ritual for the time being and return to it later for more detailed work to be added. There is a matter I now want to return to for a time for additional discussion. I find the following subject one of the deepest in the occult and one of the hardest to understand/comprehend, being, as it is, absolutely contrary to our normal way of thinking. If any of you just listen and don't watch as I go along with the text, when I kind of pause like I just did there with the normal and thinking, usually it's because he has quotes around it. So just a little helper for you. All right, so there is some material like this in Judge Troward's books, but otherwise I have never found much practical directive assistance in any of the books now available. I must admit, I did not search all literature for this subject, so if you know of any literature writings that cover the following subject, then please write and inform me of its title and author. I have never found the book or writings of Bishop Berkeley, which I suppose I should have done. I would also like you to know, in passing, a curious phenomenon among authors. Have you ever noticed that authors will first write about mundane things and peoples, sometimes for many years, and then begin to write about metaphysical subjects in their later writings? Not all, of course, but many of them did. Jack London wrote. Yeah, many of them did. He's right. Of physical things for many years. And then he wrote The Star Rover, which is certainly metaphysical. Haven't read that one, so I can't comment. Edgar Rice Burroughs, the author of the Tarzan stories, wrote a book in his later writings about mental visualizations, creations, which was certainly very far out metaphysically speaking. I mention these books by these authors because I want to call your attention that it seems, to my observations, that the longer an author writes, the more he seems to reach a point where, by this use of his inner powers of the mind to create writings, he becomes more sensitive to some things which begin to convey to his consciousness that the physical plane world is other than physical, in the hardcore usage meaning of the word. The constant use of his exclusive mental powers does bring a distinct comprehension to him that all is not physical solid and something else is behind it all. Please note, in the foregoing, the similarity to what I'm going to say in the following material. I don't know if I can express the following subject fully this time, and if I don't, we'll have to come back to it time and again in later writings. Here goes. Oh, drum roll. It is apparent, as said before, that we live and move and have our being in and on a physical plane world. We cognize this world in only one way, and that way is through the way of the senses, and there is no other way. If all of you will now stop here at this point and check your being, you will find this to be true. You could almost say you/we were held on this plane by our senses, the binding power of our senses. How many senses do we have? Of course. As you know, you have 5 senses, and they are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling. And each of these senses corresponds to an elemental force. They are as follows, in a little different order. Sound, hearing, write this down, take notes of this. Sound, hearing, elemental force Akasha, touch, feeling, elemental force Vayu-air, sight, seeing, elemental force Tejas, fire, taste, tasting, elemental force Apos, water, smell, smelling, elemental force Prithvi, earth. Now I say again, and please note carefully, there is no other way you can realize, feel, cognize your physical existence other than through your 5 physical senses. As soon as you begin to practice magic, however, of any kind, including the work you have done on the ritual up to now, and including the future work to be given, which you will do, you then begin to use other kinds of senses, not physical, to cognize another kind of a world, plane, and inner plane. I want to add, at this point, an observation that there seems to be some evidence that each inner plane corresponds to an elemental sense, in a sense. However, the actual manifestation of the sense, the actual physical manifestation, takes place on the lowest physical plane. For example, the sense corresponding to the elemental force of air is touch, feeling. But you also know that the elemental force of air is expressed basically by/as movement, movability. And you can also see and understand that in order to feel, it is necessary to move. You cannot feel something without some kind of movement. Either you move against it, or it moves against you. Something moves or is moved. So then, a great part of your future work will consist of paying more attention to the inner planes, but not, of course, paying less attention to physical plane existence. But, I mean, in addition to doing all your usual physical plane living, you have to start to develop a inner plane perception. All that the word magic stands for is embodied in the one conception. Understanding that there are inner planes beyond this outer physical and resultant plane, and this outer plane is manipulated by lines of forces proceeding down from up in these inner planes to here. And when one of these inner plane forces lines are pulled, Dion Fortune says tweaked, whatever is attached to it down here moves. And this is the sum total of all physical creation and the object of this book and everything else you can think of. So again, I say, your object should be to learn to use the inner planes to move this physical plane. There are many methods of entering the inner planes to accomplish this feat. Some methods quite ordinary, such as merely thinking of the inner planes, or prayer, or meditation, contemplation, as already explained, or actually entering the inner planes yourself with a portion of your consciousness, as shown and explained in in my book, The Art and Practice of Astral Projection. This book was especially designed to show you how to enter the inner planes with a portion of your consciousness, a beginning book, as it were. What you do or can do when you get in there is further shown and explained in this book. I trust you will understand the differences. Now, please note, however, that no matter what method you use to enter the inner planes, and no matter what you are attempting to do or accomplish in there to produce an effect here on this final earth plane, you cannot always do or accomplish your/some objects always, especially immediately. The reason for this sometime not workings is because of the fact that the inner planes are full of all kinds of forces which are moving in all directions at once, and which forces are concerned with all sorts of a million other things than what you are concerned with. These other forces are the so-called astrological forces, which consist of the influences of the planets, gods, as they fly around this earth, and the signs, which consist of periods when each god, planet, comes into rulership for a period of time. For example, if your desire is to accomplish a certain project and you recognize that you have to enter into the inner planes to do it, you then proceed to do so. You enter the inner planes and start looking for the part/section that controls the strings that lead to the project of the type you wish to move or accomplish. You can find the right place, alright, and even the strings, and you can pull and tweak them as you feel correct. But nothing may happen, and this is because the time is not right, due to the fact that the astrological forces are in such a position that the tweaking is canceled out and neutralized as to effects desired. The only thing that can be done in a case like this is to have patience, to persist until the times come around to when the astrological forces no longer interfere with your tweaking. Man, I hate it when the astrological forces interfere with that, huh? And the effects you desire will come to pass. But it is hard to wait these periods out. But all things, times. Yeah, it can be, right? I think, what he's referring to, an example, you think like Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, but that's just some of the examples that, and therefore part of what we do this for, so that we can learn to work with those planetary influences, those elemental influences. Okay. So come to him who waits. On the other hand, your first interplane work may synchronize perfectly with what you have in mind, and it may succeed handsomely, and your tweaking may instantly accomplish the effect you desire, in which case you can consider yourself lucky. The above explains many things as to God answering prayers, etc. All interplane work is very impersonal and unselective, and anyone who does try to influence matters here on the physical plane can and does do so all the time, and even with no conscious idea of what he is doing or why. The catch to all of this is, as you can see, the selection of the time when the prayer will work. So, remember that interplane actions will work, and also be advised and remember that no time, adverse or favorable, lasts forever. All times change. So, keep up the pressure of your prayers until you come into the right time. There is one other thing that can be said here at this point, that is, it is possible to invoke inner voice speaking on the inner planes, even when the times are not right, and sometimes accomplish your objective. So also he's talking about not just stuff like Mercury retrograde, but also the planetary times, which is a little synchronistic, since that's something I've been experimenting with and trying to figure out a little better. Try it out yourself. Okay, where were we at? Right there. This is another branch of magic, and while I try to give some of this magic knowledge here, we'll probably have to wait for another book for this more advanced material. To recapitulate the above, mainly the process, as outlined above, is to go beyond the lower forces and to okay, sorry about that. Where were we? To recapitulate the above, mainly the process, as outlined above, is to go beyond the lower forces and to work with forces above or higher up. But this process, as I said, is quite advanced, and for another book, and probably in manuscript form, to keep out dabblers who might get hurt or hurt others. To get back to ordinary operations, there was a yearly reference astrological book and calendar put out originally by Mr. George Llewellyn and continued after his death. The actual names of these two books were the Moon Sign Book and Star Book Astrological Calendar. In these two annual publications, the daily astrological forces and planetary influences are laid out in an easily understood, used system which can be of general value to you in your daily living. If you will write to Gilbert's Bookshop, 6278 Hollywood Boulevard, Hollywood, California, 90028, phone number 213-465-4185, he should have these books each year. We don't know, it's hard to say if that address still exists, but if it does, cool. Also, Mr. Gilbert carries a large stock of new, used, and rare occult books, and especially astrological books as well, as being in contact with me at all times. Ooh, they're buddies, I see. Well, neat. Very cool. Nice, we flew through that one. That was easy peasy, some general consideration. So he wants us to consider some of that planetary hour stuff, some of that and just planetary influence on top of the elemental stuff. Cool, very cool. So, that was quick. Enjoy the rest of whatever you got going on. So much love to you. Thank you for being here. I will see you for this next chapter ahead, which is the second return to ritual. Wouldn't that be the third one? Anyway, the Four Winds and Kabbalah, some more Kabbalah stuff. Cool. Very cool. And that one I saw was a bit longer, so heads up, be prepared. It was about 20 pages. But hey, you made it this far. Why not continue? As our Lord and Savior said, he that endureth until the end, the same shall surely be saved. Well, Ophiel's trying to save us from the elemental influences that have been holding us down. Planetary influences that have been holding us down, and whatever other kind of influences you might have. The keys are here. Unlock your destiny. This has been Jay Balvel. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. See you next time. Oh, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Ooh. Okay, bye.